VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. Put the Dog in the Trunk. Hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guest Kim Kilpatrick.
Welcome to VocalEye, friends. This is an almost live event, and my name is Amy Amantea. She, her are my pronouns, and I'm the Associate Director here at VocalEye, and I am the host for these events, and I'm a proud member of this community, my friends in the blind community, and thank you so much for joining us on your Wednesday evenings. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, to build community, to make friendships, to share accessible art, all of those things that we do in this space. So thanks for folks who are joining us for the first time. Thanks for folks who come by once in a while, and thanks to folks who come by every Wednesday and spend your time with us. It makes a big difference. We appreciate the testimonials you've sent in. We appreciate the contributions of your hard-earned money that you send in, those letters of support. We share those statistics and those letters with our funders. They want to know if this programming is making an impact on your experience of accessible arts, and that helps us create some funds to keep this programming going. So keep sharing those testimonial letters. VocalEye is broadcasting to you from the traditional and stolen lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And some of you know that every week I kind of like to try and cater my land acknowledgements to maybe something that's relevant to, or, you know, that aligns with the kind of presentation we're going to have the evening of the when I'm presenting the land acknowledgement. So, tonight we're going to be sharing, Kim's going to share a story about, in relation to guide dogs. So I wanted to know a little bit more about the relationship between Indigenous peoples and dogs in general, because we see a lot in movies about, and listen, I don't take any of my history from movies, but that's why I wanted to look into this to see if there's any accuracy or significance around what we see in movies and read in books around the relationship between Indigenous peoples and dogs. So I would love to read to you some information that I learned and discovered in doing my research. So this is what I found. The relationship between Indigenous peoples and dogs is deeply significant and rooted in spiritual, cultural, and practical connections that go back thousands of years. Dogs were more than just animals. They were relatives, helpers, guardians, and companions. And here's a breakdown of a little bit of some of the importance that I discovered. So I'm just going to highlight some of those things. So the first domesticated animals in North America. Dogs were the first domesticated animals in the Americas, long before the arrival of horses, cattle, or other livestock that came with the Europeans. Indigenous groups had their own distinct dog breeds, like the bear dog or the Carolina dog, which was in the Southeast. Vital work and survival. So in the plains and the Arctic, dogs were used for pulling, like those wooden sleds, right? Before horses were introduced, they were used for hauling supplies, especially in snow-covered regions, hunting parties, helping track fish and retrieve game. Some communities even bred dogs for specific purposes, like hunting, protection, and hauling, as a spiritual and kinship ties. So dogs, many Indigenous cultures viewed dogs as spiritual beings and members of the family. Dogs appear in creation stories, in legends, and ceremonial practices. For example, some Anishinaabe traditions say dogs help guide souls to the afterlife. In Blackfoot and Cree cultures, dogs were considered loyal protectors and sometimes were buried or burned with their humans as guardians in the next world. I'm hoping that means that their dog had passed with their guardian, but there was no specific information on that. Protectors and early warning systems. Dogs protected camps from predators and from intruders. Their keen senses were vital to survival, alerting communities to danger, visitors, or wildlife. And then companions in all aspects of life. Dogs lived closely with humans, often sleeping in the same shelters or being cared for like children. Children played with them, elders talked to them, and communities honored them. Some Indigenous languages even had special names and terms of endearment for their dogs. The impact of colonization Colonization disrupted indigenous relationships with dogs. European settlers brought new dog breeds and diseases. Colonial laws often prohibited dogs from indigenous communities. The forced displacement and suppression of traditional life also undermined the practical and spiritual role of dogs in indigenous communities. So today, ongoing relationships, many indigenous communities continue to work with and honor dogs through rescue and wellness programs. So there is one that's called the Indigenous Animal Health Program. And by reviving the stories, the breeds, the culture, the cultural roles of dogs, dogs are still present at ceremonies and in daily life and in oral histories. So that was just a little bit of interesting stuff that I discovered about dogs. I really didn't know that they had developed their own dog breeds. It doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know that. So there's some really interesting stuff there. So I hope you found that as interesting as I did to learn something new about the traditions of dogs and dog breeds in some of the indigenous cultures in North America, and how colonialism impacted indigenous peoples and their relationships with dogs. And in some cases, some indigenous communities are, I guess, in recent histories, which would be, 100 to 200 years, now ago, are just sort of reclaiming and rebuilding these relationships that they had with dog breeds of thousands of years ago. So there you go. Welcome. It's a Wednesday. It's July the 9th. It's 2025. And I want to welcome you all to this almost live event. It's number 188 for us this evening. And who better to have in the space than our good friend from the blind community, Kim Kilpatrick. And she's going to be live performing her piece. We'll call it an encore because it's not the first time she's done it, but the first time in our space, called Put the Dog in the Trunk. And without further ado, here's Kim Kilpatrick. Welcome, Kim. Kim, I think, is on mute. You're on mute, Kim.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
That's okay. We got you now.
I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to turn my speech off, my screen reader off, so that I don't hear people leaving and coming in or whatever is going on with that. Just a sec.
That's because we've made you a co-host.
Okay. No, I just muted my computer speech
There you
rather.
go.
So I just don't hear other things when I'm performing. But thank you. It's always a great pleasure to do this work around people who get it, which is my community. It's a great pleasure to do that. This was a show created. Well, you'll hear about how it came about, but it's sort of more of an introverted show than some of my shows, and some of you have heard some of my shows will hear some bits of story that you've heard before, but it was a real exploration of advocacy. And I want to thank the blind community, who I sort of had a group, a focus group of people that I know, to ask them about advocacy and what's important to them about advocacy, especially self advocacy, and what are the hard things and what do they do, when I was creating it. So it feels like a show very special to to my heart, but to the community, because it's how we do this all the time. So yes. Yeah.
That's really lovely. Can we talk maybe a little bit about the first time you performed this? When and where did you perform this for the first time?
So I created it sort of very gradually after the experience that happened in Calgary when I was performing my guide dog show, which we did here on over video, I think, with the painter and all that stuff. And so it took a long time to kind of germinate. When Ottawa Storytellers put it on in the spring of 2024. So it took a couple years before I was working on it, but it took a while before it came out. So that was really fun. There was a room full of people and dogs and people without dogs and all kinds of people and some online people. So it was really fun to do. I've kind of tightened it up. It was longer, a few more stories in there, but I kind of felt maybe it was a little too unwieldy, so I've kind of tightened it up a bit since. I've done it a few other times, once for a group of teens, and that was interesting, and a couple other organizations that asked for it, kind of like a training kind of
Mm.
exercise. I don't want to say exercise, but
Like an
some
advocacy?
kind of a yeah, or just like staff learning kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like, oh, they want to learn about advocacy. Well, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
But is it the big A advocacy? In a sense it is, but it's more my journey of how did I learn this? Like it's an exploration of all types of advocacy, the little A advocacy, like that you have to do every day.
The everyday
Even though this
advocacy.
became a big A advocacy, it did become a big, thing with lots of media attention and all the stuff that happened. But it wasn't that the show really focuses on. It's like, how do you learn to do this and how do you do it effectively? So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's a nice pleasure to do this.
I'm
Do this
excited,
show.
and after we listen to it, I have a whole list of questions, but I'm sure other people will have some thoughts and questions to share with you too. So we'll make sure we make some space to hopefully get everybody's thoughts and questions and comments in. But
That'll
until
be
then,
good.
Kim, is there anything you want to share with us in order to set things up, or shall I just hand the stage over to you?
No, I think we've kind of set things up. I think it should be pretty self-explanatory. I would hope. So I can start whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Well, I say then the stage is yours. So this is Kim Kilpatrick and Put the Dog in the Trunk.
With confidence, my yellow lab guide dog Ginger and I exit the Calgary Tower and stood in the bright afternoon sun underneath the poster advertising our guide dog show, waiting for the taxi I'd reserved to come and take us back to where we were staying. It was a half-hour walk back to the apartment, and sometimes we walked it, but I was tired and hungry today. I was so proud and excited to be here in Calgary doing one of the things I love best, storytelling on stage. We were halfway through our 23 shows. At the beginning of each show, Ginger guided me on stage and made sure I found my chair before relaxing on her dog bed. I told stories about using a white cane and what it was like to go from a cane to guide dog. And all of my 5 guide dogs, I had stories about them all. And then at the end of the show, Ginger would guide us to center stage for our bows. Sometimes, when she felt like it, she would bow too, just at the right moment. And sometimes she didn't. And then she would guide us off stage. It's always difficult to come to a new place by yourself. Ginger and I had traveled from Ottawa to Calgary and arrived late at night, and there was no one that could take us to arrivals. I didn't want to wait, so I asked directions from the flight attendant, and we found our way to arrivals. We've quickly learned our way to and from the theater, around the neighborhood where the apartment is that we're staying. I was feeling confident. I was so excited to be here and so happy with the team around me who supported me when I asked but didn't overprotect me. One of our stage managers was here with me today, waiting with me for the cab. He saw it, but he said it's across the street. I had asked him to come in front of the theater. But I followed the stage manager across the street, approached the car. Ginger was guiding me to the door. I said, "Is this for Kim?" "Yes." "No dogs in this car." In a split second, everything changed. It was like that moment when your foot suddenly hits an unseen patch of ice. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. Oh no, what do I do now? Should I use humor to talk him out of it? I like using humor to advocate and educate. Should I just educate him? Yes. The dog will be on the floor of your car at all times. No, the dog will not bite, bark, or interfere with your driving in any way. Yes, you are legally obligated to take us. Or should I walk away? I've been totally blind since birth, and I realized early on that I was always visible, always on display. I love being on display when I'm on stage performing. But in this moment, I wished I could just hop into this cab without advocating or explaining. And I felt sad for Ginger for being denied access. I know that seems strange. I mean, Ginger herself could care less whether we hopped into this cab, another cab, walked to the apartment, took a bus. But I always feel outraged on her behalf when we're refused. From restaurants, cabs and ride shares, and most especially for coworkers or bosses. What do? I take a deep breath to calm and settle myself and think. Put my hand on Ginger's head and stroke her soft fur and velvety ears. And as I pat her, I'm remembering another dog. A dog who came to meet me on the very last day of kindergarten, that day when I understood a certain style of advocacy that came from my mum. I was so excited to be finished with kindergarten when I bounced out of school on that last day. I had hated that year. It was too bad because at the beginning of the year, I had been so excited to go to kindergarten. My parents had said how wonderful school would be and that I would learn and go to school like my older brother. And then I would know everything. And eventually I would go to university maybe or get a job. School sounded so great. And that summer, I went shopping with my mom, got a brand new first day of school outfit and a backpack and a lunchbox. And then I learned my way all around the school playground, and I knew every inch of that playground, and I played on it all the time. I knew the slide and the monkey bars and those swings, but not those baby swings with the bars that come down in front of you. The big kid swings that when you swing so high, it feels like you're flying. On that first day of school, I could hardly wait to leave the house. Come on, come on, I need to get to school. My older brother, Kevin, took forever to get ready, but finally we left the house, and my mom and Kevin and I walked to my new school. We opened that big door, and I breathed in that beautiful school smell. It was pencils and erasers, floor polish and glue, and it had a real school bell that rang, and kids running all over the place. My mom took me to my kindergarten class, and we met my new teacher, Mrs. Crow. She had a voice that sounded just like a crow, an awful voice, like a bad witch in one of the books my parents read to me. And just like those bad witches in the books, she didn't sound friendly or happy to meet me at all. She grabbed me by the shoulder with her cold hand and she shoved me into the chair at the desk and she said, "Now you sit down here and stay there so you don't get hurt." But I wanted to move around. No, I needed to move around. I couldn't look around like everyone else did. I had to explore with my hands and my feet and my ears. I wanted to know how many desks were in that room, whether there were toys or books. Anyway, I moved around all the time by myself. How could I get hurt in this room? So I got up out of my desk and I felt my way along the row of desks and I counted 1, 2, 3 desks were between me and the wall. And on the wall, there was something that felt like, "I told you to sit in your desk and stay there so you don't get hurt." She pulled me back to the desk and put me in the seat. She began to ask us questions. What was the name of our school? What did we have to bring to school? I knew all the answers because I'd practiced with my parents, and I did what they told me and put my hand up as high as it would go, and I didn't interrupt, but she never picked me to answer. For the first time in my life, I felt invisible. The first thing we were ever going to do in our school career was make a craft. We were going to cut out shapes with construction paper using scissors. I'd done that at home. She passed out scissors, construction paper, and shapes to use as guides, but when I felt all over my desk, there was nothing there. So I put my hand up again really high, and I waited and waited while everyone else did the craft. Finally, she came over. Do you need something? Yes. I don't have any scissors or paper or shapes. I know you don't. Could you give me some, please? No. This activity is not safe for you. Why? The scissors. But I use scissors all the time. Well, you don't use them in this classroom. Now you stay right there and maybe we'll find something for you to do later. After the craft, everyone finger painted, but me. How could I hurt myself finger painting? I wondered about my parents saying I would go to school, university, get a job. Maybe they used scissors in university? At recess, I ran with my friends to the monkey bars, but she came and grabbed me off the monkey bars and took me to those swings, but not the big kid swings, those baby swings with the bars that come down in front of you, make it feel like you're sitting in a cage. Poor little blind girl on display. Finally, that afternoon, she gave me something to do. But it was something my mom had brought from home. It was a puzzle. It had all the letters of the alphabet, and they all fit into holes on a board. Well, I'd done this many times at home, and I could do it so fast. I sat there with my puzzle while all the other kids played with blocks and built things and played a game where they ran around and tagged each other. I did the puzzle 5 times, but she never came to see. This was so boring. I know. I know how to spell my name. I could find the letters for that. K-I-M. I pulled them out and put them on my desk. Wouldn't she be so proud when she saw that I could already spell my name? But when she finally showed up, oh no, Kim, don't you know what you're supposed to do? Those letters don't sit on the desk. They go in the holes on the board. I know, but I was just trying to. It's all right. I'm sure if you try really hard, you'll learn how to do it. Kindergarten was supposed to be the best, but it was the worst. She wasn't letting me do anything. She was talking to me like I was a baby. I had enough of this. I stood up, I picked up that puzzle, and I threw it with all the strength I had at the wall. I was sent home with a letter saying I'd been disruptive in class. My parents invited Mrs. Crow to our house for lunch. I showed her how I could do everything at home, and my parents begged her to let me do everything at school, but she didn't. So then my parents went to the principal and begged him to let me switch to the other kindergarten class. But he said if they switched me to that class with the fun young teacher, then other families might want to switch their kids too. So he left me in the class. Then my parents asked our social worker to come to class. I was so happy about that. I loved her, Miss Stone. I met her for the first time at the beginning of that kindergarten year. She came to our house by herself on the bus. Why don't you drive here like everyone else does? Because I'm blind like you, and I get around using a bus or taxi or walking, and I used this cane to help me get around. And she showed me her magical white cane and how she could swing it back and forth to find out what was in front of her. Did you get through kindergarten? Yes, I did. I got through kindergarten and school and university, and now I help people that are blind like you and I. Where do you live? In my own house. Do you cook your own food? Yes. Do you get to use scissors in your house? Yes. Can you read for yourself? Yes. I read with my hands. That's the way you're going to learn to read. I brought you a book in Braille, and she showed me the book. Each page had a Braille letter and a raised print letter at the top. And underneath them, there was something on that page that you could feel that started with that letter. My favorite page was W is for worm, with a rubber worm stuck to the page. So I was so happy when Miss Stone came to our class. She talked to the students and to Mrs. Crow. She told them all about how she did everything and read and used her cane. She brailled everyone's names out. She showed them her cane and her braille watch and everything. Kim and I are just like you, except our eyes don't work, but we can do almost everything, she said. The kids were excited and asked lots of questions. Mrs. Crow asked none. At the end of the talk, Mrs. Crow thanked Miss Stone for coming, but she spoke to her like she always spoke to me. What would Miss Stone do? She took my hand and she unfolded her magical cane. Thank you for inviting me, she said. Now Kim and I are walking back to her house to work on our braille. This was great. I loved being with Miss Stone, but also anything that would get me out of this class was fine with me. Oh, no. No, you can't do that, Mrs. Crow said. Someone that sees needs to come and take you. That is not necessary. Well, how are you going to get there? Well, since we can't drive a car, we're going to walk. Oh, that's funny, Miss Stone, I said. Do you think that if we drove a car, we could stick our magical canes out the window and tell what was around us? I laughed. Miss Stone laughed. Mrs. Crow did not. Someone that sees needs to come and take you both home. No, Kim's mom knows about it. We are leaving now. And she marched us out of that classroom, holding my hand and swinging her magical cane. She talks to you like she talks to me, like you can't do anything. Yes, she does. I thought it was funny, that joke about the canes in the car. So did I. She didn't think it was funny. Should I tell jokes about being blind? If you want to. Does it make you mad when people talk to you like that? Yes. Does it make you feel sad sometimes? Yes. Does it make you want to throw puzzles at the wall? Yes. Well, how am I going to learn when I have teachers like her? Well, next year you're going to go to a special class for kids who are blind like you. And I know your teacher. She's really nice. No, that's going to be awful. We're all going to sit in desks all day and do stupid puzzles, and we'll have to swing on baby swings at recess. No, no. You will learn to read Braille and write Braille, and you will be able to play outside on all the swings and slides. Was she right? Would things be better next year? So now, on this last day of kindergarten, I was so happy to be finished with that class as I ran out into the sunshine and I heard our pet lab Shayna's jingling collar. I hugged her. Hi, I cried excitedly. Kindergarten is over. Kim, my mom said, where is your name in felt? Well, The other kids had done a craft for the last day, making their names in felt, but I hadn't been allowed to do that. You know, the dangerous scissors, the treacherous felt. She wouldn't let me do it. This was not fair. This teacher could get me in trouble even after I'd finished with her class. All of a sudden, Mom grabbed my hand and the dog's leash and turned around and ran back into the school. Shayna's feet were scrabbling along the floor. I could hear her slipping. Mom, I don't think dogs are allowed in this school. She paid no attention to me. She was going so fast I had to run to keep up, and Shayna was sliding, and we reached my classroom, and Mom flung open the door without knocking, and she started yelling at my teacher. My mom was yelling at a teacher. Would she get in trouble? She went on about how I'd learned nothing in the class, and the teacher wouldn't let me do anything, and the flood of words came out. I didn't understand all of them, but I felt proud of my mom, but a little scared of her too. And then she didn't wait for the teacher to answer. She slammed that classroom door. I thought, we're finished now. We're finished with this school. But no, she grabbed me and the dog and she ran down the hall to the principal's office. And she didn't wait to be invited in or even knock on the door. She opened the door of the principal's office. My mom was in the principal's office and she was yelling at the principal. She yelled about how he hadn't switched me to the class when he should have, and all kinds of things I didn't understand. And she didn't wait for him to answer either. She ran us back outside into the sun, and then she stopped. And I stopped. My heart was pounding, and I didn't know what to say, so I buried my face in Shayna's fur. It had been amazing and scary. And then my mom said, in her normal happy voice, would you like to go and get ice cream? Oh, yes, please, I said. I even think now that sometimes a bowl of ice cream helps when you've done a bit of advocacy. But here, standing in the cold afternoon sun, it was not really ice cream weather as I stood by that taxi and started to argue with him about letting us in. You have to let us in this cab. This is a guide dog. She's a certified service dog. It's against the law to let us in. I won't. The stage manager adds his voice to mine, but it does no good. You need to do it, I said. I told you that I had a service dog when I booked the cab. I also told you not to be here, but to be right in front of the theater across the street. Okay, then, he said, put the dog in the trunk. My mouth dropped open. Put the dog, this dog, any dog, in the trunk? How dare he talk to my beautiful, well-behaved guide dog like that, the one who helped me move through the world with grace and dignity, always at my left side, kind of an extension of my left arm? I was outraged and upset, but a little corner of my brain was thinking, put the dog in the trunk. That is the best name for a storytelling show that I have ever heard. I continued to argue with the driver. No dog of mine is going in the trunk of any car. You know this is illegal to do. I don't care. I won't take you. Okay, then. Are you canceling this trip? Yes. Are you going to book me another cab? He didn't answer. I guess that's a no. He didn't answer. The stage manager took pictures of the cab and the driver. My arms and legs are shaking. My heart is pounding as we walk to a taxi stand and approach another cab. What if this one refuses me? Will I have the energy to fight? But the second driver is lovely, and we have a nice trip back to the apartment where we're staying. When I enter the apartment and check my email, there's a message from the cab company. We understand that your trip was canceled because the driver could not find you. What? If you have any problems with this, please call us at, oh, you better believe I will call. And I do. Calmly and clearly, I explain what happened to the dispatcher who answered the phone. Well, you need to book a pet-friendly vehicle. No, I don't. This is a guide dog who helps me get around. She's a certified service dog. It's against the law not to take us. Some drivers don't like having pets in their cars, you know. She is not a pet. She is a service dog, and you are obligated to take her. But no matter what I say, he doesn't agree with me and goes on about the drivers not having to take us. And he doesn't sound apologetic at all. I hang up the phone in a rage. What should I do? Leave it? Complain about the cab driver? Complain about the company? Call the media? As the words call the media go into my head, I'm remembering another time in the principal's office. This was a beautiful spring day near the end of grade 12. I'd entered this office with confidence, along with my dad, for an interview to attend a local high school to finish grade 13. That time in Ontario, we had grade 13. I thought this would be easy. This was the neighborhood school. My dad lived a 10-block walk from this school. After that kindergarten year, up until now, I'd always loved and excelled at school. I'd been to school for the blind, but it finished at grade 12, and in order to finish high school and get to university, I had to have grade 13. They would be happy to have me, right? Wrong. The principal, in the same family as Mrs. Crow, when Dad and I went for the interview, they'd never had a totally blind student in the school, and they did not want to start with me. Hello, Kim. Don't you think you should go to a special school for people like you? No, I don't. This is my neighborhood school. I have every right to attend this school. We have stairs in this school, you know, and no elevators. Perhaps you should go to a school with an elevator. Stairs are no problem. Teachers here do not know how to teach people like you. I have the skills to braille notes and to type exams and assignments, and my resource teacher will be here too. He continued to yell nonsensical questions at me. And I started to notice something about my dad. My dad and I had agreed that I would take the lead and answer the questions. He was just there for support. He was sitting right beside me. And I started to feel something. My dad, the calmest, most level-headed person I knew, was starting to shake. His leg was shaking. And then his arm was shaking too, and his whole body was vibrating. I think perhaps we will have to get someone to escort you to and from every class so you don't get lost. Finally, my dad spoke for the first time. Her arms work. Her legs work. Her ears work. Her brain works. The only thing that doesn't work are her eyes. You have until 2 p.m. today to let her into the school, or we will be calling the media. And with that, he stood up. I took his shaking arm and he guided me out of the office. You did so great in there, he said, still shaking. I don't know how you answered all of those questions without getting upset. It's terrible that you always have to fight and prove yourself. Well, thanks for fighting for me, too. Will you really call the media? Sure, I will, but I don't think I'll have to. When we got home, we received a call from the principal. Well before 2 o'clock, I would be welcome in their school. But was I really welcome? By the teachers, yes. By the principal, never. He always spoke to me in that overly loud, over condescending tone. And then when I got good marks, he would bring people around and introduce them to me, people from the board, high-ranking officials, and I overheard him bragging that he was so progressive to let a blind student into his school. He never changed, even on the day of graduation. He informed my guidance counselor to tell me that he didn't think that I could walk across the stage to get my diploma. I said to the guidance counselor, I have walked to and from this school every day, 10 blocks each way in all kinds of weather, and he thinks I can't cross a flat, obstacle-free stage to get my diploma? You mean they're going to give me my diploma while I'm sitting down in a chair? I guess so. The guidance counselor was uncomfortable. Well, I won't have that. I'm walking across that stage by myself to get the diploma. What do I have to do? Oh, you just walk onto the stage and follow the carpet. He'll be at the end of the carpet to give you your diploma. And then all you have to do is keep walking straight. Don't turn right because that's where the drop-off is. I walked with my white cane across that stage. When I reached the end of the carpet, he bellowed at me that he was putting my diploma right into my hand. Now be very careful getting off the stage. I had the diploma. I turned right just for the hell of it and faced that drop-off. Hearing his quick intake of breath, I turned and exited stage left safely. Now, back in Calgary, I wonder, should I call the media? The theater has lots of media contacts. They had done a lot of stories about our show and were very favorable towards us. I emailed my director and everyone on the team and let them know what happened. They are so supportive of me. They say that they will do whatever I want. If I choose to leave it alone, that's okay with them. If I choose to fight it, they will be behind me all the way. Their unwavering support surrounds me. I decide that no matter what, I have to fight this. Even though I wish that I could just use my energy for performing our beautiful show, I know I have to fight this for Ginger, for other guide dog handlers who might not know all their rights. And so I call a friend of mine who went to school for the blind with me for years and who came to our show and loved it. He's also a guide dog user, and he also happens to be the lawyer for the chief of the city of police of Calgary. And I ask him what I need to do. He tells me how to file the complaints with the city. I take a break. Doing all of this has taken a lot out of me. A little voice says, you don't have to do this, put yourself out there. You can just concentrate on performing. That's what you're here to do. And then I'm remembering times when I didn't advocate for myself when I should have. And I'm back in third year university, entering the music building to type a music history exam. The music department had assured me that someone would be there to watch me as I typed my exam, that they would drop in every half hour or so to make sure everything was okay. I had my tape recorder, my brailler, my typewriter, because at that time it was before computers. I brailled my answers first and then started to type them. And in those days, you couldn't proofread for yourself. When you typed, you just had to hope that everything was okay. And no one was coming in to check on me. So periodically I got up and paced up and down, stuck my head out the door. Should I go find someone? Where were they? But if I did go find someone, it would take time away from the exam, or people might think I was cheating, or what should I do? I sat back down and kept typing. No one came into the room until 4 hours after the exam was over, or was started. And that was because I got extra time for my exams. And the person who came in to get my paper was my history professor. I hope I did well, I said, and handed him the typewritten pages. There was a rustle of pages as he turned them, and then an ominous silence. Kim, there's absolutely nothing on any of these pages. The ribbon on my typewriter had run out of ink. I held my suddenly aching head in my hands and I thought, why didn't I advocate for myself? Why didn't I insist that someone come in here? Why didn't I go and find someone? And what the hell am I going to do now? My prof suggested a good stiff drink, and he let me retype my exam that afternoon. The next morning, I had no more exams. I was excited. I was looking forward to reading a book just for fun and going for lunch with friends. I just had to go and pay the rest of my university tuition. That would be easy. I knew where the office was. So I took my white cane and I walked to the office and entered the door and stood in the line waiting my turn. As I got closer to the counter, I heard the lady working there. She was speaking calmly and working quickly. It was my turn. I stepped up to the counter. I folded my white cane and put it on the counter in front of me. She said, "Can I help you?" "Yes, please. I just need to pay the rest of my tuition." There was a long silence. That's never a good sign. I always wait to see what kind of a conversation we will have. And then she became a whole new person. She raised her voice to a pitch and volume that could have shattered glass, slowed her speech down to a crawl, and said, "You want to pay the rest of your tuition?" I nodded my head. "Can you tell me your name, dear?" "Kim Kilpatrick." "Can you spell that for me, dear?" She sounded doubtful that I could accomplish this heroic feat. I spelled my name, something I'd been doing since I put those letters on my desk in kindergarten. "Very good." What had she said? Very good? How could she think I could be in third year university and not be able to spell my name? I just stood there. "Now you stay right here and I will go and get a receipt. Do you have a check for your tuition?" I handed her the check. "Thank you very much. You wait right here. I'll get the receipt." And she went away. I could hear people laughing and talking in the line behind me, and I felt my hands grow cold and my face grow hot, and I fervently wished the floor would open and swallow one of us. She came back and shrieked at me, causing me to jump out of my skin. "Here's your receipt. Can you feel it?" Could I feel it? Me who can read Braille with my hands faster than she could probably read Brit with her eyes? But I just nodded my head. "Now you put that away safely. Do you want me to put it away for you?" I shook my head. "Now do you need help getting outside?" "Oh, no, thank you," I said, hurrying her gratefully towards the door. But she came charging out from behind her counter, grabbed my arm in a vice-like grip, and started pushing me ahead of her towards the door. "I'll just put you outside," she shrieked in my ear. Before I could say, "That is not the way to guide a blind person," or "You shouldn't talk to me like that," she had pushed me through the door and closed it behind me. I stood there. I couldn't even swing my cane. How embarrassing, how demeaning, how humiliating. And this had all happened in front of a room full of people. I was furious with her, but even more furious and disgusted with myself. I had done the same thing I had done the day before. I hadn't learned anything. Why hadn't I spoken up for myself? All those words, those humorous replies, the words of complaint stuck in my throat. Back in this apartment in Calgary, I knew that I couldn't be silent, nod and shake my head and smile and say, oh, it's okay. All the other cab drivers were lovely. Reaching down to pat Ginger, who's sleeping by my feet, I pick up my smartphone and call the city. I'm nervous as I explain to a bylaw officer what happened. Will he be like the cab driver in the company? But he seems to be listening carefully. And when I get to the line, and then he said, put the dog in the trunk, I hear him gasp. Excuse me? He said, what did he say? He said, put the dog in the trunk. No, 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 he said, that's terrible. That's wrong. You have every right to complain. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to assign you a bylaw officer. We will fine this company and the driver. Finally, someone is taking me seriously. I hang up feeling a little happier. It is so nice to post on social media and get support from my blind community and from my sighted friends who are there surrounding me too. Nevertheless, the next morning I wake up sad and rattled. I have no performances today, and I decide I don't have the energy to be out in the sighted world this morning. Being in the sighted world, as you all probably know, takes a lot of diplomacy and creativity and adventurousness. And some days I have endless patience and diplomacy and creativity. And I love being out in the world and having adventures. And even those questions, and I won't say what they are here because we all know those intrusive questions that follow me around don't bother me as much. This morning, I can't handle that. I'll just stay in, go over my script, order food. But then Ginger has a different idea. She wants to be out in the world. She bounces up to me, pushing me with her head towards the door. So I decide that we'll walk to a cafe. My director has described to me how to get there and says it has excellent food. So we step out into the city in the cool morning. It's very quiet. We reach the corner of the street, and I tell Ginger to turn right, and I know I have to count 4 blocks to the cafe. As I walk, I listen for landmarks or things that I'll hear if I go here again, or smell or feel under my feet. I cross the 4th Street. The cafe should be here. Ginger, right inside, find the door. Ginger prances up to a door. I give her a kibble. I pull it open. I put my head inside and sniff. Coffee, beautiful baking smells. This must be the cafe. Good girl, Ginger, I say. And we step inside, and then I listen for the cash or any kind of counter where they might help me get something. And I really hope I don't have any strange interactions with sighted people today. And then I hear voices say, look, it's Kim and Ginger. It's Kim and Ginger. And I'm surrounded by a group of ladies. They can't wait to tell me that they'd come to the show. They came with their book club. They loved it. I need to come and sit with them. They'll buy my coffee and my muffin. And so I do go and sit with them. And they are wonderful people. Treat me like a normal person. We have a great conversation. about the show, how we created it, about the books we're all reading in our book clubs. And then they pull out, and I still don't know to this day why they happened to have a bag of dog treats with them at breakfast, but they did, and they gave them to Ginger. When this is all over, we retrace our steps. And I'm thinking how great the sighted world is. How great it is to be welcomed and included. If Ginger hadn't made me go out in the world this morning, I wouldn't have had this experience. We count the 4 blocks back, we turn left, and then we turn left again into the apartment building, and Ginger finds the door, the elevator, the apartment. When I get back inside, I feel happy and energized. I have had a lot of calls from the media. They are keen and eager to do stories about us. I check social media, and I'm getting a lot of support there too. I also have received frantic calls from the cab company wanting to meet with me. I decide I have enough energy to perform this show, to pursue this complaint, but I have no energy or desire to talk to the cab company. I get a call from the bylaw officer. They have found the driver and are in talks with the company. I feel so proud of myself for advocating for myself and others. One of the first times I advocated for others was when I worked as a music therapist in a large long-term care facility. There were a lot of residents there who were blind or had low vision, and they started to tell me things. Staff come in and they put down a cup of tea without telling us, and we knock it over. I wish they wouldn't do that. Staff leave carts in the hall or ladders, and sometimes we trip over them. Staff put our plates down in the dining room and don't tell us they're there. At first, they asked me to go and talk to the nurses about it. And I said, well, I could do that, but I think it's better if it comes from you. We don't want to rock any boats. Well, it's not rocking a boat, it's getting what you need. I said, I'll go with you. We can go together, but I think it should come from you. And they got so much better at it as time went on. And one day I was so excited to hear a blind lady in her 90s say to a young doctor, now, that is not the way to guide a blind person, my dear. You need to get me to take your arm. How great was that? I was so proud of myself for this advocacy work. And on that morning, I was on a mission of advocacy. I was advocating for Jack. Jack was an older man who had dementia, and he had lived on the street most of his life and had chronic alcoholism and chronic smoker, and he had a very raspy voice, very colorful language, but he was such a good banjo player. And he could play and sing for hours when I gave it to him. I said to him, Jack, you should really come and play for the group of ladies. They would love that. They don't want to hear an old guy like me. They do. You're great. Well, on that morning, I was on this mission of advocacy for Jack, walking down the hall as fast as I could, encouraging my guide dog forward at a brisk walk, approaching the nursing desk. The head nurse was there. Good morning, Kim. I need to talk to you about something, I said. Okay. Well, here's the thing. You know that I've been working with Jack for a long time. Yes, I know that, Kim, and you do great work with Jack. Thank you. But let me finish. So, I've always wanted Jack to go and play for the group of ladies. I've told you that before. Yes, I know, Kim. Let me finish. Okay. So this morning, I finally convinced Jack to go and play for the group of ladies. He was all willing to go and play for them. Yes, I know, Kim, but the thing is, let me finish. Okay. Well, I know how to take him to the room. I can do that safely. I know where the room is. But we were just walking down the hall, and some of your staff came right out and pulled him right away from me. Now, that is really rude to do to a blind person, just yank someone away and don't tell them why or anything about it. I know, Kim, but let me finish. Okay. So that is really rude to do, and I was going to take Jack there, and I know what you do is important, but what I do is important, and Jack's banjo is important to him. It's his most important thing. Look at me. How great an advocate I was. Are you finished? Yes. Standing there so proud of myself, I'd advocated for Jack. Kim, I know all of what you say is true, and the only reason we took Jack away from you was to get him ready because he was totally naked. Uh, uh totally naked? Yes. Um, that's all right then. Thank you for your time. And I turned and hurried off down that hall, my face hot, my hands shaking, urging my guide dog quickly down the hall again. How great an advocate was I? I'd almost taken this guy naked into a room full of women. I hadn't listened. I had thought I knew what was best. I learned then to always listen and think before you advocate. The next day in Calgary, I get a call from my wonderful bylaw officer. He tells me they've fined the driver and suspended him, and fined the company too. And then he asked me, a little wistfully, for a picture of Ginger. Gratefully, I send him one. We walked to the theater that day. I performed the show with a new fierceness. And it suddenly occurs to me that even though the show is all about guide dogs, I never mention advocacy issues once. When I'm finished here, should I create another show about that? What would I call that show? Put the dog in the trunk, perhaps? At the end of the show, the stage manager asks if I want to take a cab back. No cabs. We don't need any cabs. We are going to walk. And we set off in the clear, bright, sunny afternoon, walking down the street by ourselves. Ginger, I say, we don't need any cabs. We don't need any sighted people. We don't need anyone. We're doing everything by ourselves. She just keeps walking. But then I think, wait, we do need people just like they need us. And I'm thinking about all my guide dogs were beside me through many types of advocacy. They always make me feel a little calmer just having them there. And I'm remembering my mom and Miss Stone and my dad and all of my colleagues and friends and people in the blind community and the sighted community who have showed me how to advocate, helped me learn my own unique style and the way to do it that fits me. We reach the apartment building and Ginger finds the door. When we go inside, she prances over to the elevator and finds the buttons. And when we get into the apartment, she jumps around eager for her dinner. As I feed her, I think, what would I say to that 5-year-old kindergarten girl who thought she'd never be anything but sit in baby swings and do puzzles? I would say, you'll be okay. You will learn to advocate. Sometimes you will use humor, education, the media, the law. Sometimes you will choose not to fight, and that's okay too. You only have enough energy for so much advocacy. Sometimes you won't speak up for yourself, but that will happen less as you get older. Here's the best part, though, 5-year-old Kim. You will have cool dogs walking beside you. You will get to use scissors whenever you want. You will still sometimes want to throw puzzles at the wall. But the best part of all is you will find a way to tell stories about this. Because, Kim, even at 5, I already know how much you love to tell stories.
Yay, Kim. That was wonderful. I very much enjoyed that. How do you feel?
Oh, good, good. It's always, oh, it's always good. I'm just turning my speech back on here. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to do that. It's really especially nice to do it around people who understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think one of the things, that really try to convey is this is a never-ending, ongoing, stuff that happens, which I think a lot of people that are sighted don't understand how relentless it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I tried to get that across in several ways, trying to explain that this just goes on, it just goes on and on and on.
Yep. Everyday
And
ableism
yeah,
is um, exhausting, right? When you receive
yeah.
it and then you have to make a choice with what you're going to do with it. Um,
And it's okay not to. Like, it's okay to just say, today I just have no energy. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not
yeah,
going to do any. I'm just going to get out of the situation. So, like,
yeah,
that's okay, to do.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I find it really interesting to do this. And there are bits of story that came from other shows, but they were examples of stuff that really fit with this, so I put them in. I mean, some people said, "Oh, you should do new stuff," and there is some new stuff, obviously, but it it's kind of, yeah, and it was kind of nice to think that through there. And the other thing is, I did really think in my brain while I'm fighting with this guy, oh man, that's a good title. That's a best title. And I don't
Yep.
know if our art sometimes protects us from the the emotion of advocacy sometimes, because you're thinking,
Mhm.
can I put this in a show? Can I do it?
Yes.
This is awesome. It's not awesome that it's happening, but it's
Yeah.
awesome. So I think it sort of protects me, like
Mhm.
guards me from some of it, because I'm already thinking, like, could I put that
Where
somewhere?
will
Can
this
I make
go?
this?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
couldn't
like,
make this up. Yeah.
like I don't have to, the only good thing that guy ever gave me was this title.
Yeah.
So, but I do appreciate that from him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I feel the same way around creating pieces and ableism because there was a time where I would be like, oh, not this
Unmute
again.
now, unmuted alert.
Now every once in a while I'm like,
But
okay,
muted
where's this
control is
gonna
alert.
go?
And
Like
Yeah,
as long
like,
as I don't feel
and
like I'm in
it,
harm's way, you know?
no, no, no. You have to judge that too. And I don't know if women and men, I mean, we had this long discussion when I met with a bunch of my blind friends around here to talk about it. And if women and men it's a bit different for us,
Mhm.
like it
Yeah.
could be, I don't know. But, we have to keep ourselves safe, and, we have to, think in those ways that
Mm-hmm.
make us safe. But, um, yeah, anyway, it's really fascinating to think through all those various types, like what I learned from people and how people, well, and the longest story was that early story, but I think there was so much in there that started me off. Like, having the blind social worker was great, because she just, like, really kept encouraging me that, like, you're all right, you're okay, you know. And then it's like the teacher was the same to her. So it's like, it's not just me,
Yeah.
and then my mom just losing it. And that was the first time I'd ever really heard her lose it. So it
Mm.
was like, all year she held it in, I think partly to protect me in that class, right? Partly, because they wouldn't move me, but it's like, because she said she just saw that I didn't have the craft, and that it was a craft I could have done because it was so tactile, and just went, like, it was like a red flag before the bull. Like, she just
Yeah.
went nuts. you know, and it's that feeling of, oh, she's bringing the dog in here. She's not allowed. She's yelling at the people. Like, what the heck, and but it did really teach me, like she was gonna fight for me, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it took, she was gonna
Did you
fight,
ever have a
which
ch-
is nice.
Did you ever have a chance, Kim, to talk to your parents about some of the deep advocacy stuff? Or was it
Yeah, I
all
mean,
sort of
my
in
mom's still
passing?
around.
Oh, good.
My mom's still around, so we have definitely. Yeah, I mean, always fighting, always, always trying to find things that I could do. A lot of it they let me do, but they would sort of help me along. My dad was a diplomat, and he was also a great advocate, and usually a very calm, understated way. He was really good at, like, if I wrote a letter, he was really good at proofing that and kind of
Mm,
saying, "Oh yeah, I'd leave that for a couple of days. It's a little too fiery, whatever now, or you might want to do this." So his advocacy was quite different. They were quite different in their styles of advocacy. But I did talk about it to them, and I know that they both, I think parents advocating because they feel so emotional that their kids are having to struggle, that
yeah.
I think it's different than us doing it. I mean, it's not that we don't get emotional, but I think it's a bit different. And they both said, like, we just watched you struggle and we wanted to help, but we wanted to also help you learn,
That's right.
how to speak up,
Yeah.
and that's hard because you want to jump in. Like, he wanted to jump in way before he jumped in that day.
Yeah.
And he was just like, his whole body was like, and he was just like so mad, like so mad. But he never raised his voice. Like, he never would yell and that. But yeah, so I have talked to them. I definitely have, um, asked them about how they felt, and they'd never met a blind person before they had me. So
Right.
again, it was a crash course, right, in
Yeah.
advocacy. And so I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful that they did what they did. They trusted that I could do everything they wanted. I'm really grateful. I
They
am,
had to
like, because
build
I
an
know it
an
doesn't always happen that
independent
way.
an independent daughter,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
not going to be around forever, and if they can't protect you forever, you got to be able to take care of yourself and advocate for yourself. So
absolutely,
yeah, that's a really important
absolutely,
thing. I
yeah,
think not every parent gets that. Like you said, the instinct is to want to jump in and to do for and to take over instead of, watch your child and see what they can do for themselves and guide them and let them experience stuff so that they know that when they struggle, they can build back, kind of thing. I think that's a really important lesson.
yeah.
Yeah. I
It
want to
is,
just
and a
remind
hard
folks,
lesson.
yeah, I want to remind folks in the room that if you have questions or comments or want to share with Kim, that you also have the opportunity to do that. Got a couple of hands. So we've got Ben right away, then we've got Chantel, then we've got Lori. So let's go to Ben first.
Kim, this is Ben from Kamloops, but I am currently on holidays listening to your story. My
Yeah, thank you.
quest my question is, how long did it take you to write this powerful story, and is this in a audiobook form that you have created?
Hmm. Not yet. I'd love to do some audio recording books. It took a long time because it's very, you play with it, you move things around, you think, what's the order? How does this make sense? So on and off for several months, right? You're mulling it over in your head. It's in your brain, but it's not out yet. You write it out. Then it's like too long, or it has too much, or that's not a good order. So it takes a lot longer. Sometimes you hear performers that create things, and I know Amy's created things too, one woman things, or and they take way longer than people think in the audience. They go, "Oh, must be nice. You just stood up and talked about it." But
Mm,
it's kind of like, no, if it sounds that easy, it's good because it means that we did our job. But it also, like, it does take a really long time, and you have to sit with it. The other thing about this was it was an emotional experience at the time, and I you can't necessarily do it right away then because your whole emotional self is too in it to make an artistic choices sometimes. So what our artistic choices are different sometimes than what our personal choices. Like, what do you say? How much do you say? When do you
Mhm.
you know? So you have to also know you're going to have to perform this. If you're going to break down crying, that's probably not. You probably have to wait. You'll have to wait on that. And so it's yeah, it took a while, and even after I performed it the first time, I have trimmed it down and also performed it in different connotations. So it changes a bit over time because you listen to yourself, the recording, you're like, oh, this isn't quite right, or I think I need to do this. So it's sort of an ever evolving thing. But I would like to create a book and like with more detail than the storytelling show, because I don't mean just about this, but I mean like about some of the other stuff because there's a lot of stuff you could do. And I need to find time, I
You
think,
need an
to
anthology,
record it. But
like a
yeah,
short
so
story
I need an
anthology or
audiobook or an
a prose.
audiobook or
Yeah,
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 something like that.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
did a good
So
job.
thank you though. Thank you so much. And I'm
You,
glad you came in on your vacation. It's really nice
well,
of you.
I was gonna say now I'm gonna say goodnight to both you and to Amy.
Thanks, Ben. Enjoy.
And
Yeah. Have a
Amy,
nice
oh,
vacation.
hey Amy,
Yep.
you and I will. I'm gonna send you some stuff here once I'm back for my little thing that I think you'll enjoy.
Great. Enjoy your
I will.
vacation.
I'm gonna log off here now.
Great. Have a good
Good
night.
night now, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, we got a long list here, Kim. So let's go to Chantel. Then we got Lori. Then we got I gotta put my glasses on here. Then we have Marissa. Then we have Pierre.
Hi, Kim. Rewind
Hi.
back a little bit to, when you've been told now the cab driver was fined, the company as well. And do you look for an apology, I guess, is where I'm going with this. How satisfying is it
Well,
to you? Because I know Rick and I have been put in that situation as well over the years because he had guide dogs. And for some, well, a cab company may have the funds to, pay it, not worry about it. Cab driver, I don't know. But some validation that he at least understood and hopefully he
you'll
learned something from it.
well, in this case, Chantel, I felt like they were apologizing to me on the phone, but it was not sincere. It was because they were
Mm,
getting bad press.
yeah, yeah.
So I really felt that it was not a heartfelt apology. They hadn't really learned anything. And I'll say this, I didn't put it in the show because I didn't necessarily want the bylaw officer to get in trouble or anything. But
No, no.
it was funny because he said a few really funny things. He said, "I told them, when are you going to become a human?" And like like he was quite forceful. But he also said, because the driver, I mean, I was very lucky in many ways too. I know that because the stage manager took pictures, so they had the number of the car, they had the driver's like description. He
License
he
and
was
all
a
that.
young
Yeah.
guy. He just took pictures and he sent them over. And the bylaw officer said to me, "Oh, we have him." He said, "If he's stupid enough to stay there for his mugshot, then he may as well get." So I mean, like he said a few really funny things that. But I felt like when they called me, they were like, "Oh, we wanna meet with you. We want to talk to you." But it felt like they just didn't. So I
Yeah.
didn't bother with them. I thought, um, the media stories meant that people in the city were educated as to this is the process that you take, and the bylaw officers were great. They understood what they were doing. They fined him. They fined the company. And a lot of people said they took the company's app off their phone. They wouldn't use it anymore. So I mean, the company did suffer for
At its
this.
best, hopefully you
Yeah.
educated other people as well
Yeah,
who
and
maybe
so I
weren't so
left it
sure.
there. I left it
Yeah.
there. I understand, like in another instance, if someone really seemed to be sorry, and at any point it could have turned, right? If I'd gotten back in the company, if I'd called the company and he'd said, "Oh, this is terrible. Yes, no, that shouldn't have happened to you. We are going
Hmm.
to talk," then I might not have gone further. But the fact that the dispatcher
You
was
didn't
even
get
wrong,
support from them.
I
Yeah.
didn't get support from the company. So then I'm like, well, I don't, you guys are history. You guys are toast. So any time it can be different each time. It could be. There are times where you feel it's not real. They're just trying to cover themselves so they don't get bad publicity. And that was what I felt in this case. I really did feel that. So I thought, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not
Well,
even,
it's
going there.
puzzling to me how we were fighting with this back in the 80s, and we still haven't, you know, gotten the results that
Well,
we want.
I
There's
Or
would say
legislation.
here, in Ottawa, it's very good with cabs, really
mm,
good. I've never had a refusal in many, many years. Like it's gotten really good with them because the bylaw would fine them. But ride shares, it just is a whole other kettle of
that's another
fish.
story. Yep.
And a terrible kettle of fish that I won't use them right now because like I just don't
No.
believe them. I don't believe what they're doing is helping or that they care very much to help. But the cabs here are really good. They know and they are um I think they originally there were a lot of fines laid out that they
hmm
they they are now you know they're better here. So that's very good
That's
news.
good.
But
Yep.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Chantel.
I think Lori's next on our list. So we got Lori, and then
now
Melissa,
unmuted.
and then Pierre, and then Pamela.
Okay, first I want to say I really enjoyed
And now lowered.
I really enjoyed the story. It kind of reminded me, I'm also a guide dog user. I haven't had a dog in a couple of years, but I've been a guide dog user for the last 25 years. I had an experience not exactly like yours with a cab driver, but mine had to do with cab driver coming home. He didn't like that having the dog in the car. He helped me bring my groceries over. He said, that'll be an extra $5 because I have to vacuum out my car because of your dog.
Oh yeah, that
Me?
happens.
I said, excuse me, I don't think so. And I didn't want
No.
to argue with him. So I gave him the extra $5. I came in, brought in the groceries, and I called the cab company. And they knew who I was because I used their cab lot. I said, what's wrong? I said, the guy charged me an extra $5 because he had to back him out. I said, oh no, Lori, we'll be having a talk with him and we'll make sure he never picks you up because thank you. That's all I'm asking for. And this cab
Yeah.
driver knew that I was a good person, and I had ridden with all their people, and none of them had ever had a problem with my dog except for this one guy.
The other thing that happens, because I had one time he was trying to refuse me, and there was a cab behind him who got out and he started advocating for me. He said, "We can't do this. It's a bad looks bad on us. We gotta,
Mhm.
and just I thought he was gonna punch. And he goes, "I'll take you." The guy behind, he goes, "Come on with me, I'll take you." And he did, and he was really nice. But sometimes other cab,
Until is
you're
less
right.
than
Like sometimes other cab companies or other people will stand up for
Mhm.
you because they don't want to look bad either. They don't
No.
want, like so that company, if they knew you, that's a good tool to use, right? Because they
Yes.
want your business and they
Unfortunately, that cab company's not around anymore because the guy who owned the
oh
company passed away,
oh
unfortunately, about
no.
2 years ago. So the only way to get around where I live in the States. I don't live in Canada. I live in the States, and we have this more Uber and Lyft. And unfortunately, I don't have a dog right now, but I have talked to many Lyft drivers and many Uber drivers in the last year or so. Some would be okay having a dog in their car, and other of them say they don't want a dog in their car. So I, have been advocating with not having the dog. It's like, not having a dog in the car is against the law. You could get fined, and yada yada. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to advocate before I get my next dog, which hopefully will be in the next couple months.
Oh, I hope so. That's great news.
I've been without a dog for 3 years now, so
Whoa, that's a long time.
way
Yeah.
too long, and I miss having a dog, and I hate walking with two canes. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
not a lot of fun, but it's a great story, and I think you'd be great about writing a book about all your trials and
Yeah,
tribulations
thank you so
as a
much.
dog
That's
user.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lori, for sharing that. I take a lot of Ubers, and I have taken Ubers with friends that are guide dog users or ordered them for friends that are guide dog users, and haven't had too much pushback.
Oh, good.
It's happened like once or twice, but I haven't had too much pushback. But I wonder if, like, the legislation that's in place is all about fines. Maybe it needs to be bigger than a fine. Like, what's the consequence if you get fined $100 and somebody's like,
Yeah, what's the big deal?
"What's
If
the
they
big deal?"
pull you,
Yeah.
um, I think the bylaw officer, they had fined that guy, but the bylaw officer said if he ever did it again, that would be it. They would take his, like, 'cause he was pretty excited by this. Like he was on a big mission to get this done, like to
Hmm.
get it. And I said, well, bring them all to our show. They can buy tickets, the guide
Yeah,
dog
yeah,
show.
yeah, exactly,
Like,
exactly.
but I was hoping that would. There was actually a bump in sales, and we had a joke that it happened. Guess more than halfway through, and we are like, oh, if it happened at the beginning, maybe like there would have been more of a
Ah,
bump, and like we were sort of talking a little bit. There was a bump in sales, and
that's
people were saying,
hilarious.
"Oh, we're really sorry. We're sorry." I said, "Well, I don't blame Calgary. I mean, I have no problem with Calgary. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah."
if there was either an escalation, like it happens once you get a ticket and the second time you lose your
Yeah, like you lose it for a time or
yeah, yeah. So
forever.
then that is something that takes away your
Yeah.
opportunity to earn income as either a taxi driver or an Uber driver, right? 30 days without being able to work in your field. That may
Yeah.
change how
The
people.
other thing, though, I will say, so there have been some divers I've talked to who are terrified of dogs, legitimately really scared. And a few of them have told me they grew up in countries
Yeah.
that where there were packs of dogs that were just running around on the street, like
Mhm.
they were just there and biting people and just very vicious and ferocious. And they worked in packs and they jump on little kids and whatever they were
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. But some of those people say, I know I have to take the dog, and is the dog going to be quiet and lie down? And I don't mind if they ask me that. And
Yeah.
and then sometimes they say, well, your dog is very nice, but I really like, please get out on the opposite side from me or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they're really scared. Like and I really admire them because to be in a small space, like I'm really scared of snakes. If someone had a guide like boa constrictor or something, and I had to drive them, you know what I mean? And they're in
Yeah.
the car so close to me with something that terrifies me. And I always say to them, thank you so much. I know this was hard for you. And they'll say, but I know I had to do it. So you can tell that there are some, that have that
Yeah.
fear, but they also talk about it and they know that that's something they have to do.
Yeah.
And then they thank me for, my dog being good and well behaved and,
Yeah.
whatever. But I do understand that there are people that have that legitimate fear of a dog. And I don't belittle that. That is not,
Yeah.
you can't help it if you grew up and were attacked by a dog or something happened to then that's a hard thing. So I do respect that.
Yeah.
I don't use it as an excuse, but I really especially can respect the drivers who do it anyway. They say I
Yeah.
know that I have to,
It's hard
and
to know though. You're right. Who is just saying stuff
yeah.
I'm allergic or whatever because they just don't want to get a bad rating from
Well,
the
some of them
person who
do, but
gets in.
yeah, some of
It's
them
covered
do,
in dog hair, right?
but those ones who talk like that, I know that they're serious because I'm already in their car and they're just telling me, I grew up in this
Yeah.
place in Africa and there were
Yeah.
dogs that were just like running and chase us to school or
Yep.
away and all that. And I'm like,
Yep.
whoa, I wouldn't like that either,
Nope.
you
Nope.
know? So yeah.
Okay, we've got Marissa, Pierre, and then Pamela, and then Louise.
Hi, Kim. I just wanted to jump on and say that I had really enjoyed your story and you're inspirational and I really loved it. I could
Oh,
totally
thank you.
relate and I laughed a lot through it with you, of course. Um,
Mhm.
and I just want to make mention also that I am a guide dog handler and I have already been denied and kind of discriminated, actually asked to leave a cafe. So when you were mentioning the cafe, I thought, oh yeah. Anyway, so the other thing that I wanted to state is I do a lot of advocacy. I live in St. John, New Brunswick, and there's been a lot of
Oh,
things.
it's late for you. My goodness.
It is very late. It's 20 after 12.
I know. Wow.
So
That's amazing.
So this was really worth the staying up late, and but what I was going to say is during National Accessibility Week, we we normally plan different events for that week, and one of the events that we had done was we went to school and did storytelling, and we had some different disability groups doing that, and Harley and I, my guide dog and I, we had gone, and I didn't really have a story. But so what I did was I just basically showed the kids how Harley navigated me around and that sort of thing. But you really inspired me to put some thoughts together and tell a story, and hopefully the next time we do that event, we'll do a story time instead. And
Yeah, well, you'll always have stories, but we all know that if we go to kids with our dog, it's all about the dog, right? Of course.
oh yes, it is.
And even this winter, I did a lot of work in a transitional rehab unit, so it's for people who are rehabbing from strokes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I went with a poet slash writer, and we did storytelling and poetry with them. Anyway, she called it the ginger hour, because if I wasn't there for some reason, like we always went together, but one time I was sick and they came in, they're like, is Ginger here? They're like, no. Oh, see you later. Bye. It's like, so she always called it the ginger hour instead of us. It didn't matter. I mean, it did
Yeah.
matter, but it does open, the kids are very fascinated with dogs for sure.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
again, thank you very much. I
Well,
really did
thank you,
enjoy
and thank you
this.
for staying up so late.
You're
Oh my
very
goodness.
welcome.
Is it almost tomorrow? It's got to be tomorrow, 8, 9, 10.
It is
It's
tomorrow.
Tomorrow for her. I know. I thought
morning.
it was late for me, but it's way
Yeah.
later for her.
I'm already going to get my steps in.
Oh,
Wow, good for
yeah.
you.
For tomorrow.
Early bird gets the worm.
Oh, yeah. Do
Yeah.
steps right now.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And Pierre, come on in, Pierre. Haven't heard from Pierre in a
And
while.
Pierre's from where I live.
Yes, yes.
Pierre stayed up
That's
late.
why, yes, that you could relate to that, eh? Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to contribute. I wouldn't want to miss it, like for sure. Like I was going to be here. And Amy, thank you for hosting this event. This is wonderful. And I was at the first time you did that. Well, I don't know if it was the first time, but for me it was like when you did it live in Ottawa.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Yeah, and I listen now to the because I have a good memory. I listen now to the evolution of what you are doing, and I find it so wonderful. Like I like the way you are evolving this, and it
Oh,
is
good, because it was
progressing.
too long before and there was too much stuff in. Like I was trying to
Yeah,
get all these different kinds of advocacy, but I think there was too much stuff.
yeah.
So thank you
No,
for
you're
that.
really
Yeah.
doing that's the way I feel comfortable when you yeah, the way it evolves and it opens up and yeah. So thank you for that. And
Thanks for staying up and always being supportive. I really appreciate it.
yes, well, it's so important to contribute as we can, you know, like to all of this artistic world, because it will not exist if we don't participate in some way or another. Like we all have a role in making it better.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, Pierre's an excellent organist.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, they like played in churches, but it's not very portable for the like the campfire. But it is so nice when I have the opportunity to be in a church where I can play the organ, the pipe organ. It's such a wonderful instrument.
I
So
think I think we need
so
to work
powerful.
on some kind of like community sharing show.
Yeah. Get him to,
Like a
like, he
talent
could
night.
zoom in from a church with a
Yeah.
pipe organ.
Or pre-record it. Somebody can pre-record a video of it.
Yeah, yeah, we can
Yeah.
record it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
Mm,
We're
yeah.
planting the seed now, Pierre, so
Okay.
that you know we
Thank you, Amy. Yes.
love to share
Thanks,
that. Yeah.
thanks
Yeah.
so much,
Thanks,
Pierre. It's so
Pierre.
nice.
Nice to hear your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, Pamela, you're up, and then Louise.
Uh, sorry, I unfortunately had to come a little bit later. I hope it didn't interrupt the session at all. Unfortunately, I got the link a little bit later, so my apologies if it did. But I thank you very much for the sharing today, Kim. It was really lovely to hear your take on these situations and to hear their perspective. I was curious about one particular situation, and I'm wondering if my brain didn't process it right. The gentleman you were helping who was naked. I know that they did not that you were kind of didn't let them explain once you went to confront them about it, but did they try to say anything when they grabbed him away from you? Did they
No, no, they didn't. And the reason they
Yeah,
didn't was because we were getting closer to the room and he was just walking beside me and I didn't know. And so we
right,
were almost gonna go in there and there were a bunch of women in there. Anyway, they later they apologized for that, but they said they couldn't do anything except sort of grab him away. But that
gotcha.
particular nurse, I knew her for years, and every now and then she'd just get a fit of giggles, right? And she'd hug me and she'd just whisper to me like naked man, because she said it was the funniest thing. Like I was so righteous and all this, and I was like going, and she's trying to tell me, and
Yep.
then I was like, okay, thank you for your time. Like she just thought, I mean, once I sort of got over the embarrassment, like we just thought it was so hilarious, and not every time I'd see her, but once in a while, like she'd just think of it, and she would just say, so it was the staff did apologize, but we were very close to the room, so they had to grab him,
Mm-hmm.
just take him away because otherwise I would open the door and we would have gone in, and then the ladies would have said, I don't know what they would have said. And so
You're not
anyway,
kidding.
they did their best, but like I was like, they yanked him away, and so it was pretty funny. I mean, not at the time, but it was
Mm-hmm.
funny. It is funny now. It's pretty funny.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad it all turned out well in the end. I was just thinking, it
Yeah.
made me my heart sad for a second when you're like, oh, I need to listen more and give them a chance to explain. I'm like, but they didn't in the moment. Is where my brain
Yeah,
went,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
But it was more like I wasn't listening to her. She was trying to tell me like this is what happened, and I'm like, no, no, no,
Yes.
and you think I'm not important enough and all of that. And so
Yeah,
it's one of those things where you do have to sometimes in advocacy
100%.
listen in case
Yeah.
there's something else that you don't know, and the staff felt really bad because they were a really good staff generally, and they usually would tell me, like, I'm just taking so and so to
That's
have,
good to hear.
but it was just that that was very close to being a
That panic
catastrophic
moment.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was not something they couldn't say it, and they just
Yes.
had to go quickly with him away because
Act
we were,
quick. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but thank you
Understandable.
though.
For
Thank you.
sure. Thanks again for the
Mhm.
sharing
Thanks,
today.
thanks so much.
That's happened to me so many times where I think I'm doing the right thing, but I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, right? And so I jump in and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't right. You haven't done this. We haven't done this. And it's like, actually, we have. You just didn't hear it or didn't notice it. Or, yes, those are on the table. They've been there for 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I
You're
know.
setting
And then
up
you
for
feel
something.
like,
Where's that? You
oh,
already put them out. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
like you're
Because you're all,
supposed to have this for the touch tour. And they're
yeah,
like, yes, yes, they're
yes,
sitting
it's
right in
here.
front of your
Yeah.
hands.
Yep. Yep. And you're just like,
Oh
well,
my
why
God.
doesn't somebody acknowledge to me that this has been done? Especially when you are running something or you're the facilitator of something. And
Yeah,
so it's on your list
yeah,
of things to get done, and nobody comes back to you and says, take that off the list, or it's been completed, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
then it's like nobody has filled me in on the fact that that's been finished, so it's in my brain as something that needs to be finished. And then your anxiety just raises because it's something that hasn't been finished.
But you know, it's a funny thing say about that story. So that little bit of Naked Man story was one of the first stories I did in a story slam. Like we used to have these story slams where you like it's like a poetry slam, but you get up and it has to be like a 3-minute story, and then they're judged, right?
Yep.
And I thought this was hilarious. I'm gonna do it. It's hilarious, and it is hilarious. But when you think about it more deeply, kind of what you said, Pamela, and what you said, Amy,
Yep.
it isn't funny. Like it is funny, and it isn't funny because it also shows we need the information. Like we sometimes go off, but sometimes it's because we didn't get the information we could. Like if she had whispered in my ear, which she probably could have done, but she was sort of panicking too. But if she'd kind of whispered, "He's naked, I'm just taking him back," I would never have gone to the nurse, right? Like I never would have
Exactly.
gone
Yeah.
down there. But she was also panicked because like we're about to go in this room and there's all these women in there, and like they were like sort of prim and proper women, sort of like women, and I don't know anyway. So she was just panicked a bit. And so it wasn't anyone's fault, but it's true that we think of it as so funny at first, that story, and then the more times you tell it, I told it once in the slate, said this is not funny at all. Like I mean it is sort of, but it's also very, it can be sad. It can also be frustrating because it's like you're not given the information you need to do a good job of advocating, you know? So yeah,
And
that's,
we're used to having to repeat ourselves a lot if we're not heard the first time too. So it just comes
yeah,
naturally that you're like, okay, but you still haven't
no,
acknowledged that
no,
you
you
heard
haven't.
me, you know?
And the other part of it was we had this running debate, not debate, but sort of feud. Not, it wasn't an all out feud, but so nursing staff would think that other staff were not as important as them. Not, they didn't think that, but it's kind of like you'd bring someone to an activity, or I'd be doing music therapy. They go, "Oh, sorry, now we have to take them for their bath." It's like, but they're with me and they're having a good time. Like, "Oh, can't you do that?" You know, another. So we had this sort of thing between sort of recreation, the art therapies, and nursing, where nursing kind of did what they wanted when they wanted, and we would say, "Yeah, but you're pulling someone out of a group when they're having a good time. Like, can't you just wait?" You know, like what? So there was a little bit of that tension, is like, oh, what I do isn't important because you're just grabbing him. You know what I mean? Like you're just grabbing someone away. That means what I do is not important. So it was kind of that political thing too. There was a little bit of that in me to say, like, what I do is important as what you do.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, but we have so many people to see. And it's like, well, so do we, you know, like, I don't know, there'd be this little bit of conflict there. So it was partly that too. I was just saying, you know, what I do is important and what he wants is important. And, you know, they're like, yeah, yeah. And, you know, anyway, you know, so there was a lot of sort of things happening in that moment, right? Too. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Louise.
Louise.
Hello, Amy and Kim.
Hello,
And Kim, this is the
Louise.
second time I've heard the show. I heard the original when you put it out. And yeah, but you know, we've all gone through different moments with guide dogs. I mean, I can think of every guide dog almost of mine I've had a refusal of some sort. And you know, the very first one was when and when Chantel said back in the 90s, back a long time ago when this, we get refusals. I remember the night it was pouring down rain. My son was 3 months old, my first one, Anthony. My dog Loris, groceries, and my guide dog. So my grandfather ordered a cab, and so did I, because he was going one way and we were going another way. So one cab pulled in. And the driver said, "No, I'm not taking you. No dog allowed."
Mm.
And when you hear what happened, you're going to laugh. So my grandfather's cab pulled in, and the driver goes, and he came up, and he was like, "You have to take her." He goes, "That is the law." He goes, "I'm not taking her." He turned to me and says, "I take you." So he took my grandfather, and he was going to report him. He says, "I'm reporting him. I know a cab. I got."
Yeah.
But listen to what happened the rest of it. I was told later by my grandfather that he gave that driver the whole trip home. It was only about 4 blocks, But doesn't matter how far it was. He told that
No.
camper off because that was my
Yeah.
granddaughter, my great grandson. You just refused with her guide dog and her husband. So thank you a lot. So I phoned in on Monday after Thanksgiving long weekend because on a Tuesday morning, and I reported it, and they apologized and everything. But I faced different refusals, but I think the best story comes when I had Kiara once. We phoned a cab. We were at Costco and we were bringing home groceries. It was a pretty big order. The cab gets there and he knew there was a guide dog, and he looked at her and he goes, I'm scared of dogs. I said, okay, where do you want me to sit? Okay, you sit on the passenger side behind, the passenger side on the back, on the back seat. I said, no problem. So my husband got in the front, in those days you were allowed to sit. This is way before pandemic. It was early on her career. So we got talking on the way home, and I said, okay, why are you afraid of dogs? And we got talking. By the end of that trip, he says, I thank you for educating me and helping me understand that what these dogs are supposed to
Yeah.
do and what they're supposed to do in a vehicle. He says, I'll try not to never refuse one. Our trip was one. But he goes, I am afraid of them. And I always will be, because I lived in the country. He lived in the country. The dogs ran free.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. But the other really interesting thing that you said, Louise, and it's the people around us too are impacted by these advocacy things, like and little kids, right? Like to be with little kids and have you refused when it's pregnant, like that's hard. And other people that just haven't been around that are shocked by it, or sometimes they don't know what to say, or they start like really advocating, or like the
Yeah.
people in Calgary, that young stage manager, he had never seen that before, and he was so mad, and he was so lovely, but because I said, oh, I don't know what if this cab refuses me the second one. He goes, if it does, I'm going to drive you, because like he understood, but also he said, like, what is this guy doing, and why, like, so I think it's interesting, the people around us too that are impacted by it, that we don't necessarily think about, or and certainly little kids, or
Yeah.
elderly relatives, or other people that we just are getting to know, are also impacted by this in different ways. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. Yeah,
But over the years, I've advocated and said, no, this is, you've got to take me, you've got to take me. And I've had
yeah,
drivers pull away, and I pulled back the cab company. And I actually, on Sodell, one time, it happened to me when I was leaving the vet's office. The vet's office is the worst. A lot of them they don't believe you it's a guide dog. Though they're wearing a harness, they don't understand that it's a service animal. And I've had some fights getting cabs at an animal hospital. When Kiara was so sick, I went through so many different times where it would take half an hour, 45 minutes to get a cab.
well, I had this funny thing once. I was at the vet at night, and I don't remember why I was there at night, but I was. And there was a guy there with a boa constrictor in a big, I don't know what it was, in a big cage or something,
Okay.
box. And it was sick. And anyway, the vet had looked at it. And so we're both waiting for cabs outside. So him and me, I'm standing outside. And a cab pulls up and said, what do you got in that box? And he goes, a boa constrictor. And the cab driver said, oh, I'm here for the lady and her dog. It was fun. It was really fun. I don't know whether he was, but when I got in, he said, oh, thank God. I couldn't stand having a snake. I said, neither could I. I didn't want to stand beside it for too long either. I was like, oh,
Well, at
it
least
is.
they know when they show up at a vet's office that they're going to take some kind of animal in their car, right?
Oh, yeah. Like it's weird that they're getting all worried about that, because if they're going to a vet, either that or they're taking you home when you're in absolute distress because the dog had to stay there or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, it's
But I just appreciate the fact that you share your stories. I can't wait for the day you decide to put a book together of all your stories, because
oh, I have to do that, don't I? Everyone asked me, so I better start.
I've heard some of your stories, and I've know this is only a small version of what you've gone through. Please consider writing it
Oh,
all, putting
thank
it
you. I
together,
will. I will. I will. I'll take the time.
because eh, it's unique, and a long time handler and what you've gone through, but it's not just that. It's before you got your dogs. It's what you've gone through to get there, to be a guide dog
Yeah,
handler.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And not just, I mean, it was about a dog's, but it isn't too. It's also about all the advocacy and, the stuff, being out there and doing things and dealing with the public and all of
Like
that.
a chicken soup for the blind soul, kind of.
Chicken soup.
We've got a
No.
hand from Faye, and that'll be our last question for tonight. So Faye, come on in.
Hey.
It was excellent. But
Oh, thank you, Faye.
what I want to know, did that guy end up playing his banjo to the women?
Yes, he did. He did. We had to be a bit careful because he really was a swearer and they were not. So we had to. He was a great banjo player, but he's like, oh, the goddamn banjo, and all this stuff. And so you had to, and he had memory loss. So we did it, and the women really enjoyed it. But like you had to watch. So yes, we did end up getting him there. The other thing about him was he couldn't remember my name because he was obviously because he had memory loss. And he used to call me Old One Eye because I have one eye that's kind of closed a little bit, and the other one has a little bit of light. So he'd be yelling in the hall for one eye. I want that one eye. Where's that? And then the nurses are like, "Don't say that, so politically incorrect." But I thought, well, I know who he means. Like, there's no one else that could be called that. So he was a character. He was really entertaining. And later I said to him something like, you let me, like I went to his room and I said, you got me in big trouble because like you were naked. And he goes, I was? And I said, yeah. And then he goes, oh, and he thought this was quite hilarious, like, in a way, because I think got me in big trouble. He was he was a sweet, I mean, he was a very interesting guy, but when he sat down to play, he was so good. Like he knew all the old songs and he could sing and everything. So it was really nice. Yeah, he did. He did, but you had to watch him a little bit. But he did play for them even in the end.
Those women probably needed a little bit of excitement.
Well, they liked it. No, they were good with him. They understood him, I think. But I don't think they would have liked it if he'd come in naked. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't have cared less, but I don't know.
That's a whole different performance.
Yeah. It's like, oh boy. Yeah. Well, it was so nice to hear your voice too. Everybody's voices that I know and don't know. No, nice.
Okay, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll do our official good night, and we'll thank Kim for joining us. And Kim, it's just always wonderful to have you in the space.
And thanks for having me. And if I wasn't such a morning person, I would come to more because I wish I'm not a night hawk.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for joining. We can't wait till the next time you get to come back.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll bring our palliative care stuff in person and that way we'll be.
I think that would be awesome. Yeah.
But we'll let you guys know if we get all the money we want to get, then we'll do that. But
yeah, bring you and the team out to do some art here in Vancouver. That would be lovely.
Yeah. That would be great.
All right, my friends.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy your evening.
So much.
Good night.
Good night. Have a wonderful.
I hope you feel better soon, Amy.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.